I'm Linda Beaumont. I'm 59, and for most of my adult life, I've been invisible unless I'm cleaning something. I've scrubbed bathrooms in houses 3 times the size of mine, wiped down granite countertops I could never afford, and folded more towels than I care to count. But none of that ever bothered me, not really. Because at the end of the day I had Jessica. My daughter. My only child. My reason for getting up in the morning. I raised Jessica alone. Her father, Alan, left when she was 9. Walked out the front door with a suitcase and a smile, chasing after a woman named Elaine with glossy nails and a fake laugh that always made my skin itch. I never begged him to stay. I just picked up the pieces, packed Jessica's lunch, and went back to work. That's what mothers do. We keep going even when everything around us says stop. It was a Thursday around lunchtime. I was folding towels in the laundry room of a client's home. Big, airy place with floor-to-ceiling windows and an espresso machine I still don't know how to use. My phone buzzed in the pocket of my apron. I wiped my hands on my hip and saw her name on the screen. Jessica. I smiled before I answered. "Hey, sweetheart," I said, trying not to sound too eager. "How's the birthday girl?" There was a pause just a beat too long. "Yeah, Mom, about that," she said. "We're not really doing anything this year. No party, no dinner. Just keeping it low-key." Low-key. That word again. Jessica always used it when she didn't want to explain something. "Oh," I said, aiming for breezy. "Just taking it easy this year?" "Yeah," she replied quickly. "Money's tight right now, you know how it is. Inflation, the business, Carter's car needed repairs. It just doesn't make sense to throw a party." "Of course," I said, even though it wasn't. "You know I don't need a big dinner. I was just hoping to see you." Another pause. "We'll do something soon," she promised. "Maybe next weekend. I'll call you, okay? Love you." "Love you too," I replied, but she'd already hung up. I stood there for a moment, holding the phone in my hand, the dryer humming behind me like static in my chest. Then I just went back to folding towels. I didn't cry. I didn't throw a fit. I just folded like I always do, like maybe if I made enough neat little rectangles, the disappointment would crease itself into something less painful. That night I pulled out the gift I'd been quietly putting together for her. A slim black leather box with a silver clasp. Inside was a watch. Not fancy but nice. Stainless steel, midnight blue face, elegant but simple. Something she could wear to meetings, interviews, even on a date night. I'd been paying it off at the pawn shop downtown. $10 here, $15 there. Every time I had a little extra, I wrapped it up, hands trembling slightly, but steady enough to tie the ribbon. Told myself maybe she really would call next weekend. Maybe we'd grab pancakes at that diner by the marina like we used to. Maybe the budget really was tight. Maybe I was just overthinking it. But deep down, in the quiet part of me that had grown too familiar with letdowns, I already knew the truth. Something was off. And I was about to find out just how off it really was. Saturday morning came soft and gray. The kind of overcast sky that made my little kitchen feel even smaller. Like the clouds were pressing in on the roof. I was sitting at the table by the window, sipping a mug of instant coffee that tasted more like cardboard than caffeine. The house was quiet, too quiet, and I kept glancing at my phone, half expecting it to light up with a call or a message. It didn't. So I scrolled, checked the weather, read a recipe I knew I'd never make. Anything to quiet that gnawing ache that had been sitting just beneath my ribs since Thursday. Maybe she'll call today, I told myself. Maybe she meant it. Maybe we really would grab pancakes tomorrow. Then my phone buzzed. It was a notification from Samantha, my niece, Jessica's younger cousin. She'd posted a photo dump on social media. I tapped without thinking, expecting pictures of her dog, maybe another thrifted outfit or her new nail polish. But what loaded was something else. The first photo hit me so hard I forgot how to breathe. Jessica. My daughter. Standing in the middle of a glittering ballroom. A giant silver 35 balloon floating behind her like a crown. She was smiling, holding a glass of champagne. Her hair curled just right. Makeup glowing under the soft amber lighting. And around her? A sea of people in elegant cocktail dresses and tuxedos. Laughing, dancing, celebrating. Celebrating her. I stared at the screen, frozen. My heart thudded slow and dull, like someone had turned the volume down inside my chest. I swiped. Another photo. Jessica and Carter, shoulder to shoulder, both beaming. She was holding a microphone. Then came the video. Music pulsed in the background, something jazzy and expensive sounding. Jessica was mid-speech, the room listening, all eyes on her. "I just want to thank the two women who made this night possible," she said, voice proud and bright. "My incredible wife, Carter, and the woman who's been like a mother to me, Elaine." That last part hit harder than anything Alan ever did when he walked out. The woman who's been like a mother to me. Not my mother. Not Linda. Just Elaine. I didn't realize I'd put the coffee cup down until it tipped slightly, sloshing warm liquid onto the table. But I couldn't move. I kept watching the video over and over like my brain was trying to make it untrue if I played it enough times. But it was real. She threw a party. A big one. With champagne and speeches and balloons and laughter. And she looked right into that microphone, in front of everyone, and erased me. No mention of me. No photo. No seat. No trace. It was like I'd never existed. And suddenly I understood this wasn't just about a birthday. This was about belonging, about status, about who Jessica had decided was worthy of being seen beside her. And it sure as hell wasn't the woman who once picked her up from school in a borrowed car, or taught her how to count using cans of soup. I sat there still as stone, while the daylight crept across the kitchen floor. And the only thing louder than the silence was the way my heart broke quietly again. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the glow of my phone screen still seared into the back of my eyes. Every time I closed them, I saw Jessica smile, heard her voice thanking Elaine, like I was nothing more than a name crossed out on some old invitation list. By morning, something inside me had changed. Not rage. Not even grief. Just clarity. I wasn't going to sit in that apartment and let myself be quietly erased. I didn't want revenge, and I wasn't going to make a scene. I just needed to be seen. Even for a moment. Even if it was the last time. I went to my closet and pulled out the one outfit I still owned that looked even remotely like it belonged at an event, a navy blue pantsuit I used to wear to job interviews and funerals. I ironed it crisp, wiped down a pair of beige flats that didn't murder my back, and put on a little makeup, just enough not to look tired, just enough to say I showed up. Then I reached into the drawer where I had hidden her gift. The leather box still looked perfect, smooth and quiet, like it didn't know what kind of heartbreak it had been born into. I opened it once more. The midnight blue face of the watch caught the morning light, soft and steady. I closed the box, tied the ribbon again, and slipped it into a reusable grocery bag. Not fancy but sturdy. I didn't need to impress anyone. I just needed to deliver the truth. The taxi driver didn't say a word, and I was grateful. I watched the town roll by through the window. Cedar Hill had changed so much in the past decade: new cafes, yoga studios, wine bars. I couldn't afford a single one of them, but I remembered when that corner had a hardware store, and that block used to have a diner where Jessica would order grilled cheese and draw on napkins. We reached the event hall. I asked him to drop me off a block early. I didn't want anyone seeing me step out of a yellow cab. Not because I was ashamed, but because I knew Elaine noticed things like that. Appearances. As I walked toward the venue, I could already hear the low thrum of music through the walls. Lights danced in the windows. Guests in silk and satin posed for photos near a gold balloon arch that read, "Jessica's 35th, a night to remember." Oh, I'd remember it, all right. I stood across the street, half shadowed by the low branches of a trimmed oak, and looked through the tall window panes. Inside, the ballroom glowed like something out of a dream. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, waiters in white gloves weaved through tables carrying trays of champagne and shrimp skewers. Laughter, clinking glass, soft jazz. This wasn't low-key. This was wealth. Celebration. Deliberate exclusion. Then I saw her. Elaine. Sitting near the head table in a dress the color of deep wine, her hair perfectly blown out, makeup flawless. She leaned into Jessica with the kind of ease that made my stomach twist. And around her neck, catching the light like a cruel memory, the pearl necklace Alan gave me on our 10th anniversary. I hadn't seen it since the funeral. After he died, Elaine promised she'd pack and return his things. She never did. That was the moment. That necklace. That laugh. That room full of people toasting to a life I helped build but no longer belonged to. I crossed the street. One foot after the other. Steady. Measured. My heart was pounding, but my face was calm. When I reached the grand double doors, 2 attendants stood on either side with clipboards, scanning names and waving people through with bright smiles. One of them turned to me, smile faltering just slightly at my outfit. Name, please, he asked. I met his eyes. Linda Beaumont, I said. Mother of the birthday girl. He hesitated. Just for a moment. Then nodded and stepped aside. I stepped into the light. The moment I stepped through those doors, the air shifted. The music didn't stop, but the room changed. It was like someone had dimmed the lights, not literally, but in the way people turned their heads, like a breeze had blown through and carried in something unwelcome. Like me. My heels clicked softly on the polished floor as I moved farther into the ballroom, and one by one eyes found me. Some lingered. Some darted away. Sequin dresses turned in clusters, whispers sparked like static along the edge of my vision. Then Jessica saw me. She was laughing at something Carter had said, glass halfway to her lips. Her smile froze mid-lift. She blinked as if trying to make sure it was really me standing there. Mom, she said, stepping toward me, panic flickering across her face. What are you doing here? I didn't flinch. I came to drop off your gift, I said evenly, holding the small wrap box in both hands. Since I wasn't invited. A hush settled around us like fog. No one moved, but I could feel the heat of a dozen stares crawling across my back. Elaine was sitting just behind Jessica. Her expression didn't change, still poised, still smiling, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. She reached slowly for her champagne flute, fingers wrapping around the stem like she had all the time in the world. Jessica glanced around nervously, then leaned closer, her voice low but sharp. Mom, please, this really isn't the time. Or the place. I looked at her. Really looked at her. Not the dress or the makeup or the perfect curls. Not the shine on her earrings or the sparkle on her shoes. I looked past all of that to her eyes. And what I saw wasn't the girl I used to push on the swing set, or the teenager who once cried into my lap after a college rejection. It wasn't my daughter anymore. It was someone else. It never seems to be the time, I said softly. Funny how that works. I walked to the nearest table, hers, I assumed, and gently placed the gift down, ribbon still neat, corners sharp. I didn't need to see her open it. I didn't need a thank you. I just needed her to see me. To know that I had come. That I hadn't vanished quietly like they hoped I would. Elaine sipped her drink and still wouldn't look at me. Carter stood stiffly behind Jessica, unsure whether to speak or simply disappear into the background like a piece of rented furniture. Jessica cleared her throat. I don't think you'd be comfortable here, Mom, she said carefully. The people here, it's just different. I raised an eyebrow, voice still calm. Different. You know, this crowd, the formality, it's not really your thing. I didn't want you to feel out of place. Out of place? I nodded slowly, letting the words settle between us. Then I took a breath and I said the one thing I hadn't let myself say in years. I didn't bring this gift for my daughter tonight. I brought it for a stranger. Her face changed, subtle, almost imperceptible, but it changed. And for the first time, I think she realized this wasn't about a party or a play setting or a guest list. It was about being forgotten. And I wasn't going to let that happen quietly. I had already turned to leave when I heard the click of heels behind me. Elaine. Her steps were practiced, controlled, like everything she did. She caught up with me in the hallway just beyond the ballroom doors, still clutching her champagne flute as if it were a badge of authority. Linda, she said, with that soft, syrupy tone I'd come to expect. I think we both know this isn't the place for theatrics. I turned to face her. There it was, that smile. Tight-lipped, eyes too calm. The same one she wore at Alan's funeral when she stood by the casket like she owned the man inside it. The same smile she gave me when she promised to send me his belongings and never did. Let's not ruin a perfectly lovely evening, she continued. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. You already did that, I said quietly. When you helped take everything Alan meant to leave me. Her smile didn't falter. Not right away. Alan made the decisions he felt were best, she said. Maybe it's time you accept that, instead of looking for someone to blame. I reached into my purse, slow and calm, and pulled out the envelope. Cream-colored. Heavy. Unmistakable. I didn't hand it to her. I placed it gently on the small table between us, right beside a tray of untouched canapés. Then I'm sure you won't mind this, I said. Elaine's gaze flicked to the envelope. Her posture changed just slightly. It's a petition, I continued. Filed last week. A formal challenge to Alan's will. Fraud. Forged signatures. Witness statements. I met her eyes. You can thank your not-so-discreet attorney for leaving his email open at the country club. Her fingers tightened around the stem of her glass. Just a twitch, but I saw it. You're bluffing, she said, though her voice was thinner now. I smiled, only a little. Am I? I leaned closer, just enough for only her to hear. The house Jessica thinks she owns? The business? The estate accounts? They're all in limbo now. Frozen. Pinning the investigation. Elaine said nothing. For once, the woman who always had a comeback was silent. And in that moment, I felt something lift from my chest. Something heavy I'd been dragging behind me for years, being dismissed, overlooked, replaced. It peeled off, piece by piece, like old wallpaper in a sunlit room. I turned and walked back into the ballroom. The music was still playing, the lights still glimmered, but the air had changed. I could feel it in the way voices lowered as I passed, in the way women in sequin dresses leaned toward each other and whispered behind polite smiles. I didn't look back. Let them whisper. Let them feel what it's like when the person they tried to forget refuses to stay forgotten. I wasn't the ex-wife tonight. I wasn't the cleaner, the outsider, the inconvenience. I was the truth they hadn't prepared for. And for the first time in years, they were looking straight at me. I didn't go back to my old apartment that night. The one above the laundromat with the leaky pipes and the too-thin walls, where I used to lie awake hearing the neighbors argue and wait for a phone call that never came. Instead, I went home. Home to a place no one knew about but me. A quiet third-floor walk-up on a tree-lined street just far enough from Cedar Hill's polished core to feel like mine. I signed the lease a week before the party, the very same day the estate accounts were frozen. It was paid in full, every cent of it mine, from a life insurance policy Alan had left buried in a file folder Elaine never found. The irony made me smile when I first held the check in my hands. She took the house. She took the man. But not this. I didn't tell Jessica. I didn't tell anyone. Not even Rebecca, the young paralegal who'd helped me file the petition. I needed something that was mine alone, a place untouched by apology or pity or performance. The first few days were quiet. Blissfully so. No messages. No missed calls. No expectations. Just a kettle, a second-hand bookshelf, and peace. I bought myself a small birthday cake from the corner bakery, carrot, with cream cheese frosting that melted slightly in the sun. I didn't put candles on it. I didn't need to. A few women from the library came over, along with Rebecca and her mother. We sat in my little kitchen, drank cheap red wine, and told the kind of stories that didn't need polishing. We laughed too loudly. We didn't match outfits. We didn't post a single photo. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like something or someone was missing. Later that night, I walked barefoot around my apartment, carrying a paper plate with a second slice of cake. I paused by the shelf where I'd placed an old photo of Jessica. She was maybe 6, missing her front tooth, holding up a birthday card she made from cereal box cardboard. She looked so proud of it. So proud to give it to me. I stared at that picture for a long time. Then I turned it around so only the back faced out. Not out of anger. Just peace. Because I was done waiting for people to recognize my worth on their timeline. I wasn't standing at the edge of their lives anymore, hoping for a sliver of invitation. Now I chose who gets a seat at my table. Now I decided who gets to show up. The next morning, sunlight poured in through the kitchen window. I made tea the way I like it, strong, 1 sugar, a splash of milk, and carried it out to the small balcony. The street below was quiet. A few joggers. A breeze in the trees. The kind of silence that didn't feel empty anymore. Just real. My phone buzzed. I didn't check it right away. I didn't need to. I already knew what it would say. Maybe Jessica. Maybe Carter. Maybe a half-hearted apology typed and retyped a dozen times before hitting send. I set the phone down face down beside my mug. Took a slow sip. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for the world to tell me who I was. I knew. I was the woman who walked into a room no one wanted her in, and walked out with her head high. I was the mother who stopped begging to be seen, and learned to see herself. And from now on, I would decide who earned a place at my table. That to me was more powerful than any speech. That to me was enough.